the walls are being broken down. I think in the future, more and more startups will be doing this from the get-go, or it's really just have another investment channel open.
The water's fine, homie, jump into the deep end. Sow it, you will reap it. We talking how to start it, how to grow it, how to keep it. Take a deep breath. You are now rocking with Founder Secrets.
Kevin, welcome to Founder Secrets.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. Really look forward to this.
You know, you've had kind of an interesting background. You started as a journalist, then you moved into being a podcaster. Now you run this podcast company with over 300 different podcasts. What made you kind of want to take each of those jumps?
Totally. I had always wanted to work in media as a young kid. I grew up in DC, consuming newspapers, TV, radio, and it always just inspired me. So I went down this path. Being a journalist is not an easy path to go down. I moved to Cleveland. I lived in San Francisco, and I really got a thrill out of interacting with the athletes and writing the stories. Podcasting was this whole new thing that I felt most media organizations were ignoring 5 years ago. There were a couple that were doing it right for sure, but it felt like an open lane to build something. And I've stayed steadfast the last 5 years, heads down, building a network of podcasts. It started with my show, my 49ers podcast. So I definitely believe in the medium and think there should be more companies like Blue Wire. There are going to be who are catering just for podcasting. But long winding road. I've been fired from media jobs. I've been laid off from media jobs. I've had hard luck. So hopefully my story can inspire some or be a tale of perseverance for how I got to journalism to entrepreneurship.
What do you see as different around podcasting for sports and kind of the sports arena versus other arenas? Or are they all kind of the same in your mind?
For me, sports, the advertisers, they like advertising for Super Bowl, but also NBA and Formula One. There's a lot of variety within sports. It's not just sports. And there's different advertisers who spend in different categories. So from a business standpoint, that was super attractive. I've always thought sports was more of a local, or that's where I really enjoyed the local programming of radio growing up. I love all the national content, but I feel like they maybe sometimes aren't diving as deeper, and we have national content ourselves. But, for me, I think sports offers those couple of unique things, the advertisers, and just it's so niche. You can drill in super deep on a sport, on a regional market. And I consume probably more business content now, 5 years in. Of course, I listen to all the Blue Wire shows, but I think sports is the number one category according to Marketing Dive IAB for monetization too. That goes in and out. News has been number one. News will probably take it over next year with the election season, but I think sports is core to audio, and audio is changing so much. And we also have business and wellness and pop culture. So we're sports to our core.
I don't know. We do a podcast, but I don't know that much about business of podcasts because this is, there's no business here. We're just doing it for fun. So how do podcasts make money? Like, do your podcasts generate more income than you pay people to do them? Or how does the economics of podcasting work?
Yes, all of our podcasters are profitable. For most of them, we work on a revenue split of generally 50-50, give or take a few percentage points. And podcasts are just like YouTubers can get programmatic revenue, or you upload to a platform and you get certain programmatic ads in, but we become the direct sales force for the podcaster, meaning actual physical conversations, sending decks, sending proposals to brands and agencies. We have a thesis that these brands and agencies have been spending a lot on television and radio and Facebook and Google, and now they're spending more on influencers and podcasting. The podcasters on our platform get at least 25,000 downloads per month. Some of them record all the time to hit that. Some of them record a couple times a week. A lot of them are getting 100,000 downloads a month or more, and really developed really strong size audience. Not A-list stars here that we're working with, but really still athletes, fans, journalists. My thesis is that people are going independent. Being an owned and operated employee in media is dangerous. People get laid off. The direction of media is very unclear. So if you're tethered to an owned and operated platform, you could be building something and get cut out from under you. We let our creators own the IP. We're really the business partner for them. Business shows are harder to monetize, but once you hit certain scale, you should be able to join a network. There's networks of all sizes out there.
So I'm hearing Do you know the Startup Podcast by Gimlet Media?
Yes.
That was a big inspiration for me, at least, listening to him record building a podcast in real time and how he scaled it. And I guess they raised some money. He talks about all that, but eventually they sold to Spotify, which I'm not sure, was that a great exit? Is that the outcome of, say, your company? Is that a Spotify would buy this collection of shows? Or do you think Gimlet Media and that whole group sold too early and there's a huge potential that goes beyond that?
I got most of the gist of that question, which was Gimlet had a great exit. There was a frothy oil boom in podcasting from about 2020 to 2022, where a lot of dollars were being spent. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the Gimlet staff turned over, and I don't think the acquisition turned out perfect for Spotify, but I think it made enough noise and was a springboard for podcasting becoming a bigger industry. So I commend Spotify. I think Gimlet built a great product. For us, I don't want to put a for sale sign in front of Blue Wire. I learned doing business and learning from others too. That's not the best approach. I really want to create a lot of value. I want to help independent podcasters make more money. I want our employees to build great careers. I want Blue Wire to be a known name in the podcasting industry. If someone believes that that should be a part of their portfolio, we love having those conversations. I've raised $12 million from investors so far. So I think our goal is to exit. Fortunately, we don't have venture capitalists on our team who need a return in 2 years here, and they're not putting the screws on us. So we've been growing, but growing at our pace. And Barstool built something special. It took them 15, 20 years to really build. Not saying we're going to go for that long, but I'm ready to go that long, looking at this as a very long-term project.
So you're raising money right now, right? Through kind of angel crowdfunding platforms, like WeFunder. What is that process like, and how do you see that versus raising from traditional venture capitalists or institutional money?
For sure, we're raising both right now. We're always talking to strategic investors and looking at a Series A extension for ourselves. But 2 years ago, the laws changed. There's always been, or not always, the last 10, 15 years, there's been Kickstarter and different product type of funding on platforms. The laws changed with the SEC 2 years ago that now small businesses can raise equity from any investor. You used to have to be an accredited investor, which means 200 to 300K net worth and proving all this stuff with documents. Now you fill out a couple forms, you do still put in your salary, et cetera. They give you a range of what you can invest. And we've seen a lot of companies raise money this way. We're aimed to raise $1 million. We have 250,000 raised in just 3.5 weeks so far, which is we're really, really pumped about. It's been our listeners. It's been people who've been in my network. The famous story is not famous in the Blue Wire world. I cashed in a $17,000 Verizon stock on the public market to start Blue Wire. That stock is down in the red since founding Blue Wire. So trying to say people, you don't have to always invest in the public markets. You can take a bet on the private market as well. The walls are being broken down. I think in the future, more and more startups will be doing this from the get-go, or it's really just have another investment channel open. Yes, we're talking to venture capitalists and strategics, but this way, people who believe in Blue Wire can own stock in the company. And we're willing to throw ourselves out there. I've always been I want to build in public. I learned that through 500 startups. A lot of startups do that in other industries. Sports has always been private and guarded. So I'm trying to be more inclusive and out there with our numbers.
So speaking of kind of private and guarded, there's a story going around in the, let's just say in the podcast world. And I don't know how much you want to talk about this, to speak about it as you will. But Theo Von, who I follow on YouTube and I follow his podcast, he went public, I guess like 5 days ago, saying on Twitter initially saying, hey, this guy from, and he names the person, he names the founder of the company, he named the company, and published this kind of 10-minute video saying this guy stole, I think, $600,000 from him and stole $4 million purported from others, all in the kind of podcast world. And then some other people came out and said, yes, it's been a sham. That guy, the name of the company is Cast Media, the founder of that company defended himself in a separate video. I watched that one too. But what it seemed like is that he made these guarantees to podcasters and then got underwater. That's what it looked like. And And as the ad rates went down with interest rates going up, he got stuck. He got stuck in the middle. The guy made promises he couldn't keep. I'm just curious, like as much as you're willing to talk about, you probably know, you certainly know much more about this than I or any of the listeners. Like, what do you think about that specifically? Or what do you think in general about these kind of minimum guarantees, or about the kind of business model of podcasting and what people have been saying in the frothy world?
No, great question. Podcasting's still a volatile industry. Even though it's had a boom and a lot of dollars pumped into it, it's still not going to be hockey stick growth with complete straight lines. There's going to be some peaks and valleys as the industry goes up. There's going to be some stories of companies who make mistakes. Luckily for us, we have structured almost all of our contracts as revenue splits, which it caps our upside a little bit, but it protects our downside of coming under. And we think that's the safest way to build a podcasting business in the near term. Maybe in the future we can get to more minimum guarantees. That eliminates us from A-list talent. Theo Von, some of these people are super famous. I feel bad for everyone involved. I feel bad for the creators. I feel bad for the founder. He tried to make things happen and he couldn't. I try and not be in the game of promises anymore. The minimum guarantee, you're in the game of a promise. The revenue split, you're in the game of we're putting our best efforts out there and going to give you a share of what we go get. I do believe podcasting for young companies, that is the safest way to do it. There are others ahead of us. Dear Media, there's people doing it all types of ways. So I don't want to say I'm gospel on this, but for us, revenue split has been the way to approach the business model, and not trying to build a staff of hundreds of people here. We're not raising a Series B, a Series D. We're trying to do all this profitable. I think burning through a lot of capital, unfortunately, that's not the market right now. Or actually, fortunately, I don't want to be running a business that way. That was in vogue. I think those times are over. So, but there's a lot of investors who believe in the space, like myself. Second, third inning here. So we have been losing money. We've been breaking even this year. And we're open about that. Cast, again, unfortunate situation. I don't want to call anyone right or wrong. I don't know all the facts, but we try to be creator first here, all of our decisions. We've unfortunately let some people down. We've had to end some contracts, but paying the bills is important. That seems like a bad way to do business.
So do you find the creators and scout them out, or do you do they come to you, or do you start them from scratch? Like you have a business idea for a podcast and then you find a founder or somebody that can do it. How does it work?
We normally find people. We have our eyes on Twitter and YouTube and the list of audio, but occasionally our network will reach out. There's news on this stuff every day, covered by smaller outlets. Barrett Sports Media, shout out to Jason and his team, Front Office Sports, Sportico, just paying attention. But we're generally looking for folks ourselves. Track it all in Salesforce. We have this huge database of people we've signed, people we haven't signed. I don't know if you've ever played Madden franchise mode, or it's almost like this. We create a rankings of people. They're in different sport categories, and we see who fits our salary cap, which is generally a revenue split. We can promise the best folks in the six figures, and folks under that. Just depends on your audience. Really depends on your sport, but that's how we look at it.
Like, what's your pitch to them? Or you reach out and you say, hey, you guys have 30,000 listeners a month and I can make you more money on the advertisers. Like, why would someone sign? Like, what do you kind of pitch them on?
That's the pitch. And we're not going to compromise your voice. I'm not going to call you and be like, what are you saying? What is this segment? Like, plan your own show. They get some calls. Hey, can you be more political? Or, hey, can you only talk football? Or can you do all these other segments on all these other shows in our network? We like to preach independence. We'll help with content strategy. We'll connect if the other people agree. It's mostly people feel under-monetized. They're putting a lot of time, effort into this project and feeling like, hey, the space is hot. There should be more dollars on my show. Football, basketball, baseball, they sell best. Formula One is popular. still getting better at golf and some of these other areas, but it's the same television spenders for football are spending in podcasting. The same, it's bid apples to apples. You can kind of look who's spending where, talk to the agency. Yeah, they want to double down on all the TV campaigns they're doing. Almost like a sports team has their official soda, their official betting partner. Podcast networks can have that. And the creators realize this. They're like, I'm missing out if I'm by myself. Networks are getting more of the ad dollars.
It was like a manager in a sense, or even like an investor picking what's going to succeed. I want to ask you though, like Harry and Meghan, right? They were supposed to do a pod. They didn't. Everybody was super upset about it and the Spotify guy, I forget, offended them in public. How do you force somebody? What if I'm a guy that just doesn't want to do football anymore? He's just fallen out of love with football. Like, how do you make him do it?
We don't, because we don't own the shows. We don't make millions of dollars of investments in any one show. So my thesis is, I think most podcasters want to go for 5 to 10 years. Some of them, this could be their radio station one day. They might not even be the host one day. Like they see, like, I'm setting up a huge channel. I can train other people to come in here. And we have 25 little networks within Blue Wire. I don't want to call them little, actually. Like, clusters of shows, 3 to 10. Some have 20 different shows in their network. So we try and find entrepreneur types that want to do this instead of, we don't have the most well-known people. Chris Long is an entrepreneur type. He is a ex-player, made Pro Bowls. He's really well-known in sports, but he's not Harry and Meghan, right? Some of those people have crazy expectations. They're not even showing up and doing the work. They want a huge check before even showing up.
What about, how do you even know, sorry to interrupt, but how do you even know their numbers? Like, is this public information? Because I know, can you find somewhere like, how many downloads does this show get?
We do a number swap before offering any contract to someone. If someone's not willing to share their numbers, then it probably is going to be hard to work with them. Most people are like, oh, my audio is small, but I have YouTube.
What if they fake their numbers? Or do you like log into their Spotify and check it out?
There's an exporter. They can send screenshots. We've maybe had one person over 4 years fabricate something. So it's kind of an honesty check at the beginning. It's like, hey, working with us, you got to be an honest partner. Share your numbers. We're going to be very transparent about the revenue you make with us. It normally goes pretty well. Or if someone's out on that, then they don't join. But I think very few. It kind of is what it is. I think there's a lot of trust. We're only using the numbers internally. We're not sharing it with other people if you don't join our network. But advertisers will want to browse. It's like a grocery store a little bit for the podcasting. If you have that much shows, like, we can put these shows in better position. They don't want to be a lemonade stand by the side of the road. They want to be in the grocery store.
So you said that that there's shared spend between, if I'm an advertiser and I'm spending money with the NFL or with the San Francisco 49ers, let's say, in the California market, maybe I want to focus on podcasts that are also going after those same customers. Is that part of what you're seeing? And do those advertisers come to you and they say, hey, I have $2 million I want to spend in the next quarter. Show me where to spend it? Or what does that kind of process look like from the advertiser's point of view?
It's both. Let's start there. We definitely hit people up. We have agency relationships. I'd say 20 to 30 key agencies are spending in podcasting with us. Some of those hit us up with an RFP, a request for proposal. Hey, I'm a apparel brand in sports. We want to spend in NBA. We want to spend in the West Coast, the Southeast, the Northeast. Can you put together what it would look like? And we come together with a package of content. Here are the audio downloads you're going to get across 40 different shows, these ad reads, these social posts, this integration of the apparel, let's call it a shoe, on the desk. Because we have all this historic data, we can project. And because we have enough shows, even if a show underperforms, we have enough. Or if a show overperforms, that's great. So it's a media plan. Sometimes we put the media plans together. Other times the apparel brand is like, yeah, I'm going to spend $400,000 in Q3. I'm going to send this to Blue Wire. I'm going to send this to Bleacher Report. I'm going to send this to Barstool. I'm going to send this to ESPN. Sometimes we'll win that. Sometimes they'll divvy it up. Hey, we're only going to do this. We're going to split it up. Sometimes we lose, of course. A lot of times you lose. It's more like baseball. You're trying to, for those to get 3 out of 10. Then we have the outbound sales team. We still have so much sales to build. We only have 100 partners today. I'm sure iHeart has 1,000 plus or more, building more content, building more partners. That's the plan.
And then if you take the 400K, let's say in your example, and then you decide how you break that up amongst your pods, because you have so many podcasts, you have so many shows, you decide, okay, these 13 shows get it. And then that's where the 50-50 revenue split comes in. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And the shows that get more listens are put in a better position generally, or the shows that are NFL or NBA or really hot, or baseball during the playoffs. But for sure, we have one advertiser who writes $1 million check at the beginning of the year and is on a lot of the podcasts that they ask us to choose. But now more and more are getting specific. I like this athlete. I like this sport. That's what's separating us, because we have so much depth of content. We like to make these custom packages for folks, and they feel good about it's not just a random spend. It's correlating with other areas they're spending. But geo-targeting is getting crazy. So you could be listening to a 49ers podcast in California or listening to it in Florida, and you hear a different ad depending on the campaigns going on.
How does that work? Like, do you know how that technically works?
Technically, we uploaded Megaphone. We're partners with Spotify and Megaphone on that. The ad is still recorded by a host read by the podcaster, but we upload it into their system and can track where people are listening with the zip code. Say we have that apparel brand. Hey, they were big in California, but they're not in Florida. Oh, we have a tanning bed actually in Florida. We have a local deal there. We're going to, instead of taking a zero there, we're going to put something for Florida. This dynamic advertising is huge. It has not even been tapped into yet. Spotify, I think, is going to push the industry forward. It can become like Facebook Marketplace. The mom and pops aren't spending here yet. We're really a national advertising company, even though we have local content. I do think that podcasting 10 years from now is going to be a much bigger industry than people think.
So I think of things in terms of, does it steal market share from other things, or is it growing the pie? So what I mean by that is it that podcasting is stealing time away from somebody watching television or they're watching YouTube? Or do you see it as additive or maybe they were listening to the radio, maybe they were in their car listening to the radio and now they listen to podcasts. It's just shifting the time from doing something else. How do you kind of see that, or what have you seen?
Because it's on-demand content and you can consume it cross-platform, I think it's totally additive. But I know I don't watch cable TV as much as I used to, or network TV. I sit down and watch YouTube at night. I also sit down and watch Reels or TikToks. I think podcast clips are becoming a huge part of the shorts game. So, I think it's a combination of both there. It's displacing cable television, radio, but because you can consume cross-platform, and people are actually developing relationships with influencers. I saw someone wrote something really interesting about you love your favorite podcaster more than you love your favorite movie star. You love a cluster of podcasts more than you love Tom Cruise and going to see the Top Gun franchise. I really believe that's true. You got to point to studies or this and that, but people are really picking their favorite topics, even smaller shows. A lot of our shows are small. As long as that influencer is publishing great content all the time. And I think people really like having the choice back. For years, it was SportsCenter, it was whatever was there. So the consumer has the choice now, which I think makes the whole pie bigger. But old platforms are definitely getting displaced. That was the whole thesis of Blue Wire.
Yeah, there's something interesting about, I have podcasts, I've listened to probably hundreds of hours of that host or the hosts talking. And to me, they're almost like a friend, right? That there's someone close to me. And if I were to meet them in real life, they don't know who I am at all. There's this big imbalance between, I feel like I know them well. And, I guess you're right. Like they're a celebrity to me, but much more so than a TV star or anyone else, because I've spent so much time listening to them and I know their stories and things like that. So you're saying that there's a way to leverage that trust, and the ads are more impactful or better in a way?
The advertisers are proving to us, so a small company like Blue Wire making $8 million in revenue after just founding the company. I think the ad dollars are swirling in the air right now. They're looking for better places to spend them. It can't all be YouTube. Yeah, I believe influencer marketing is podcasting. It's kind of the same thing. It's influencers speaking right at you. You got to be careful to doing too much. But if you do unique things, if you have Little Caesars pizza and you're having a pizza party as you're watching a live stream on a YouTube, there's just a lot of seamless integration here for some of the products, especially for sports. Business solutions is still a big category for us. Monday.com and different platforms, as I think a lot of our folks either work for small businesses or need business solutions. So yeah, I think these categories are getting bigger. They're looking for places to spend. It's audio, but again, with social posts, it's YouTube, right? For us, it's the whole package.
I'm curious about the operations. 300 podcasts. If they publish once a week or twice a week or more often, you're talking about 5, 6, 7, 100,000 podcasts a week. Like how How do you manage that and make sure they come out on time and make sure that the production quality is high? How do you manage? It seems like a big operation to manage.
Totally. There's a lot of trust because we don't own the content. The creator has their name on it. They're responsible for everything. And most creators just live up to the expectations. They're entrepreneurial people. And so they manage themselves on the production end. On the back end, we make sure all the ads are being trafficked correctly. We have anywhere from 100 to 200 ads going, different campaigns at a time with different clusters of podcasts. So we have to make sure those scripts are good. It's done mostly through email currently. We do want to build software in the future of Blue Wire and build our own operations system here. There's a lot of trust. We have a couple quality coordinators and our ad ops team who make sure we're like air traffic controllers. We don't own the planes. We're really like the airport. The creators take off and land themselves. We make sure everything's going smoothly. So I'm a big analogy guy. We got a grocery store. We got a airport here. But essentially, that's what Blue Wire is. We organize it, make everything go. But the creators upload everything themselves. We're just checking to make sure they do their ads. We message them during the week. We have very few offenders. Most people are good at this. We always give feedback. How do you get better at ad reads? That's really our core business. We're a marketing solution for all these brands. So having the creators be good at ad reads is core. At the beginning, we make sure their mic is good. When we onboard folks, if they have a lot of tech issues or are recording inconsistently, they're probably not a good fit for us. We give them the feedback, hey, become more consistent, improve your mic. Here's tech to buy. Here's the right equipment. But for the most part, people sound good. It's easy to do this at home. I think our creators really build this into their routine. Once they start making real dollars with us, they're like, yeah, it's like going to the gym. It's like a thing that I do here. Of course, it's still, most of our people start for free. I did it for free for years. That's how it goes. And it's still, for the people who are barely monetizing with us, for a lot of them, it's still worth it. They're able to get press passes or different things, look bigger being a part of a Blue Wire. But we're really aiming after podcasts that are growing and that we can monetize.
So if you did it for free for years, like what kept you going? And also, how did you keep coming up with content to talk about? Like why keep doing it for so long? Especially if you're probably losing money on it, you're spending money on it yourself, right? In the beginning.
And it was so early in the beginning when I was doing it, it didn't feel crowded. I had just left radio. I was like, I need a digital channel to connect with people. If you're building a brand, it's a way to establish really loyal followers who care about you. People who are listening to your podcast are really subscribing to what you say. What kept me going, I always wanted to do more in sports. The podcast was something unique that I was doing. Not everyone was doing it at the time. I always saw the potential in podcasting. For you guys, you've been able to learn so much about business doing this show. You've probably been able to make a lot of different connections that you could utilize in the future. For the connections, it is great. For sports, it's a little bit easier to come up with the content. The headlines make itself, but the episodes are not evergreen, right? People aren't going back and listening to something a year ago because it's pretty much irrelevant. So I think you guys could do a series on media, or, you can go deeper on different topics. You can make a series within a series, change the artwork, change the branding for a select cluster of episodes. There's different ways to try and grow this, reach people. You're reaching unique people. I'm going to subscribe to your content more. Not to say that I'm that important, but I think that's the goal, right? You're connecting with who you think is important, there's something that can come from this network of people that you've cultivated.
I love that. The kind of last question is, what advice would you have for an entrepreneur who's just kind of starting out in podcasting or in kind of the creator space in general, but they want to see this as a business? They're hearing what you're saying. But what advice would you have for someone just starting out?
Pick your niche. Podcasting has a ton of different categories: sports, news, lifestyle, business. There's some people who do adversity and want to have all these different types of, if the audience doesn't know what they're getting, it will be, I think, harder. You can always zoom back out and go more broader. If you start too broad at the beginning, there's just so much of that out there. So pick your niche. You got to do this for a year to two for free, probably. I would say pick a couple platforms to be good at. We ignore Facebook. We're not really that good at Instagram. Most of our creators, they're good at Twitter. They're good at YouTube. From a B2B, we're good at LinkedIn. Like, pick a couple platforms to be good at. Putting it everywhere with the same message. You got to kind of tailor your message per platform. Also, if you're doing this on the creator side, you got to mingle with other creators. Be a guest on podcasts. really get out there and be in other people's networks, make comments on different channels so people are clicking your page. But it's a whole game, a whole commitment. We love teaching people the tips, but once they get going and prove themselves, that's the perfect time for Blue Wire. There's a lot of other networks and other genres that I think are propping up that can help.
I got to ask one quick question, because we mentioned about downloads. Can you tell if somebody's actually listening or how much they've listened of the podcast?
Yes, we can. We can tell when someone drops off or on. A download counts as 1 or 2 minutes, I think, of playtime. We really sell impressions sold. We can tell if someone skips an ad or listens to it. So we always remind our audience, hey, to be most supportive of Blue Wire, please listen or fast forward on the ads. Don't skip. Surprisingly, this technology has been available for years. I think like 3/4 or 4/5 of our audience don't skip the ads. A lot of people are either
really
out or, it's crazy. Because I know it seems like, why wouldn't they skip the ads? We're trying to do more 30-second ads, even 15-second ads. We're also doing more custom content within, just tagging the brand's name. So, there's ways to get everything in. But yes, that data is available. That data is loved by advertisers. That is why the spend continues to grow in the space.
Thank you so much for sharing these nuggets. Really, really appreciated you coming on.
Where can people find you? And also, how can they invest? So if they're interested in the crowdfunding side, where can they go to learn more?
Definitely wefunder.com/Blue Wire. We're going to leave it open for another couple months as we like to get to 500,000 or even 1 million was our original goal here. And it's pretty cool logging in every day, seeing different people invest. I appreciate the platform to talk, guys. Great questions. You guys are curious about podcasting. Ask the right stuff. One of the better episodes I've ever been on. Can't wait to listen back.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Kevin.
Go on.
Talk soon.
Kevin.
See you guys.
Thank you for rocking with the homies. Taylor, Trusty, and Flavio. Seize the day, own it. Until next time, hold it down, hold it down. Hey.